Do you justify yourself too much? Does every word that comes out of your mouth turn into a defense? In a world where everyone attacks, this vulnerability becomes your greatest weakness. You have the feeling that you need to explain your actions, your decisions, as if their value depends on the approval of others. But who really benefits from this? Every justification is like a puppet on a tightrope. Who controls the show? You or those who feed off your doubt? While you're trying to defend yourself, others are watching, assessing your weaknesses, and taking advantage of them. Think about the times you over-explained yourself. How did you feel afterward? That sense of exposure? It's oppressive, as if your very words became a burden. Do you feel accepted, or merely redefined by the opinions of others, like a painting that changes its function depending on the viewer's gaze? And what if I told you that affirming your own truth does not require external validation? Every word you use in an attempt to justify yourself is a piece you hand over to the game. They're not just listening, they're judging, shaping, and directing the perception of who you are. It's a chess match. And while you distract yourself trying to prove your worth, someone may be plotting checkmate. The key here: silence. Not just external silence, but a silence that radiates power. You don't have to win through argument. Instead, demonstrate that your actions don't need an explanation. A strong gaze that says, "I know what I'm doing." That's intimidating. Thus, you become the invisible force in the room, while others expose themselves through the gaps in their dialogue. Think of figures like Machiavelli. He didn't justify his strategies, he acted. And when someone felt threatened, he became even more intriguing. In moments of attack, the truth is your weapon, but don't use it as a shield. Keep others' insecurities in check and you will dominate the environment. Breathe. Now think, are you really controlling your narrative, or are you just trying to excuse who you are? The truth is, by stopping your justifications, you become the author of your own story. So the next time you feel compelled to explain, ask yourself if it's worth it. It's a risk, yes, but it's also liberating. Now, before we continue, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell, but only if you really enjoy what I'm doing here. I'm preparing a series of videos just to guide you on your journey of self-discovery and personal growth. Once that's done, let's move on. Have you stopped to think about the power that comes from silence? Many times, what you don't say can have more impact than an avalanche of words. The culture of justification creates a stage where everyone becomes mere spectators of your insecurity. What sense does it make to explain, when the true essence of power lies in your lack of defense? Every time you try to justify your actions, you become a target that others can assess and manipulate. Perhaps you've felt pressured to give an answer you didn't want to provide. Remember how many times you felt compelled to clarify a misunderstanding. How did that make you feel? Exposed? Vulnerable? Now stop and think. Were all those words, that compulsion to justify, helpful or just poisonous to the environment? Silencing the need for validation creates a space where you become untouchable, an enigma, being a paradox. This generates confusion, and confusion breeds obsession. Consider the figure of Machiavelli, who navigated the intrigues of the court without ever becoming the main attraction of the spectacle. He understood that true mastery doesn't lie in words, but in their absence. By refusing to justify yourself, you step out of the line of fire. You begin to carve your own path to power. Words become a burden, and your presence becomes a force. A firm look, a subtle nod. It's in the space between gestures that your control resides. Silence transforms into your most powerful weapon. Contrary to popular belief, staying silent is not a weakness. It's a strategy. Every time you don't respond, you spark curiosity and activate the minds of those around you, making them question your position, your intentions. What if you decided not to succumb to the pressure? Listeners become guardians when you become unpredictable. The dilemma lies in the choice, to remain on the defensive or to become the force that doesn't need to justify itself. Look around. If the words you speak are not yours, they belong to others. When you refuse to describe your truth to the world, you transform. You become the unreachable narrative. The game changes, and now you are the player who doesn't need cards to win. Embrace the idea that true control doesn't lie in the answers, but in the art of remaining a mystery. Do you consider yourself a defender of your own image? Every word you say, every explanation, tries to shape the perception of others. Here's the brutal truth. This constant defense does not empower you. On the contrary, it ensnares you. You believe that justifying yourself might help, but what it really does is open doors to doubt. Your words become shackles, and the moment you utter them, you lose control. The path to liberation passes through raw acceptance, the kind that doesn't need explanation. Try to think of a recent situation. Someone criticized you. You felt the pressure to respond, to justify your choices. But what if you didn't have to justify yourself? What if you simply accepted the criticism and moved on? By silencing the need for validation, you start to build an inner fortress. Emotional freedom isn't found in justification, but in accepting responsibility without offering up a reason. Every moment you dodge the urge to explain, you strengthen your position. What did Machiavelli teach us? He never explained his actions. He acted. Every studied movement, every strategy revealed control that remained hidden. Instead of justifying himself, he let others expose their weaknesses. Consider the impact that would have in a room. While others speak, you listen and observe. Your position becomes that of an invisible player, shaping the game without being noticed. Silence is your ally. In saying too much, there is distraction. In the silence, you compel others to reveal their true faces. The fear of the unknown is powerful. When you become unpredictable, you turn into an enigma. They analyze each of your movements, speculating. Your story becomes more fascinating when there are no certainties. Feel the power that brings. True self-confidence doesn't shout, it observes. The more you step back, the more vulnerable others become. The empty space you leave during interactions is more powerful than any elaborate response you could give. So, how does your narrative stand? Are you taking the lead or hiding behind justifications? Renouncing defense is not a weakness, but a subtle attack. Every time you pull back from the justification stage, you conquer new emotional territory. Do this. Embrace ambiguity. Control your narrative. Let others speak. And when you finally decide to enter the game, do so from a position of unwavering strength. Do you feel compelled to explain your decisions? With every comment, with every critique, the impulse to justify yourself strikes your mind like lightning. But the crucial question is, what do you gain from this? Stopping the need to justify is an act of emotional resistance. It's finding strength that springs from silence. While you constantly attempt to explain yourself, you create cracks in your armor. You expose your vulnerabilities to predators watching, with fear or envy, your inner confidence. Imagine walking into a room full of people. What do? Do you introduce yourself, trying to be understood, giving detailed explanations about your ideas and decisions? What happens when you do that? You become a target. They focus on their insecurities, on their assumptions, while you exhaust yourself in the need for validation. Silence, a powerful choice. When you choose not to justify yourself, you transform into an invisible force, an enigma that provokes curiosity. Observe their reactions. The more they talk, the more they reveal their weaknesses, their fears. Meanwhile, you remain calm and observant. When everyone around you is seeking answers, you become the question, an intriguing puzzle they need to solve. Think of Machiavelli. He didn't explain his tactics. He acted with precision and detachment. Instead of neglecting his defense, he became a mystery, a silent presence. He understood that true dominance lies in letting others speak, revealing their intentions without you having to be explicit. And while they expose themselves, you move the pieces on the board. Silence becomes your defense. Think of a recent situation. You were criticized, and for a moment you felt the impulse to justify yourself. What did you do? Did you engage in a game of words, or did you take the opposite approach? What would happen if you simply nodded and moved on? Silencing that impulse creates an internal fortress. By not bending to others' expectations, you reaffirm your dominance over the narrative. You move on a level others cannot comprehend. Every moment you resist the urge to justify, you conquer a new emotional space. Control does not lie in spoken words, but in the power of what remains unsaid. The heavy air of curiosity transforms into your deadliest weapon. Whenever someone tries to force you to explain, just breathe. Wait. They burn themselves in the flames of uncertainty. Silence has its own eloquence. When you refuse to reveal your truth, you create space where others' opinions become irrelevant. You are no longer a spectator in your own life, but the author of your narrative. The more you isolate yourself from explanations, the more impressive your presence becomes. Open your mind, see how the game changes. They don't know how to play against the unknown. Therefore, look around you. Are you really in control of your narrative, or are you just waiting for an opportunity to defend yourself? The power is not in explanations. It lies in the innate ability to remain enigmatic. Never explain. Just observe. Have you noticed how silence can be more deafening than 1,000 words? In the heat of an attack, while the voices around you try to shape who you are, it's silence that will give you control. Silence doesn't mean submission. It's a powerful strategy, a tactic that transforms you into an unshakable presence. Imagine the scene, a heated debate. Everyone shouts, everyone defensively retorts, but you don't. You observe. The pressure rises, and you remain unperturbed. In that moment, perception shifts. You are no longer a participant. You are the invisible force observing weaknesses unfold. The expectation of defense creates a vicious cycle of exposure. Every spoken word becomes a burden, turning you into a target. The psychology is simple. When you feel the need to justify your actions, you lose control. Your words become chains, and every justification is an offering to a potential adversary. Someone once said, "Defense is the first step toward defeat." Contrary to popular belief, true strength lies in not justifying yourself. The power resides in what you don't say. By opting for silence, you stir curiosity. Like Machiavelli, you keep your distance, a specter in which uncertainties thrive. What you know, they don't. What you plan, they cannot foresee. Each silence of yours becomes a psychological battleground as your adversaries try to fill the void. Silence is power. Have you noticed how this happens? They fail to understand that by trying to invade you with questions, they reveal even more about themselves, laying their insecurities bare. Breathe. Now ask yourself, how many times have you felt compelled to justify your choices? That impulse is a poison you must eradicate. Free yourself from the expectation of defense. Liberate yourself. Think of moments when you chose to remain silent. Isn't that liberating? The weight of unspoken words can be a relief. You become an enigma, and enigmas are irresistible. When you don't respond, they expose themselves. There's truth in the weakness of the need for defense. They fail to see that only you hold your true intentions. Better than any weapon is the perception you create. When you maintain distance, your opponents become their own executioners. They falter while you observe. True control doesn't come from defense, but from controlling the narrative. You are the conductor in a chaotic symphony. By remaining silent, you not only listen but also redefine the game. You turn vulnerability into your greatest weapon. Silence crackles in the air, and in that moment, everyone wonders, what is really happening? Remember, embracing the rule of silence means conquering new emotional territory, far from the shadows of insecurity. Keep yourself a mystery. Become a force that defies their logic. They will need to decipher you, and by the time they try, you will already be ahead, planning your next move, able to move quietly between the lines of the game. Master the art of silence. Avoid the noise. Words are the trap. Silence is your liberation. You believe you need to explain your actions, just like an artist in a gallery. But the truth is harsh. Justification is a weakness. With every word you utter in defense, you give others an arsenal to attack. Instead of emerging as the architect of your destiny, you become a mere spectator of the narrative others create. Let's be clear. The power is not in justifying yourself, but in building a space where you don't need approval. Think about how great manipulators operate. Their voices don't echo, but their presence dominates. Jobs didn't seek validation. He did what he believed was right. And in doing so, he shaped entire notions about technology, not through defense but through his silent determination. Now imagine this: a packed room, the air thick with anticipation. You stand up, tempted to explain your vision. What happens? You become a target, vulnerable. The words that leave your mouth invite others to explore your insecurities. When you remain silent, the question becomes, why isn't he speaking? What is he thinking? The uncertainty you sow in others is a sign of control. Silence is not weakness. It's a subtle artillery, a strategic choice. Machiavelli taught us the art of the unsaid. He was always a step ahead, observing and accumulating power in his silence. In today's world, where everyone screams for attention, the true advantage lies in moving in the shadows. Wait a moment. Stay an enigma. Make them guess. They will reveal more of themselves in their attempts to unravel you than in any answer you provide. Let's talk about your daily dynamics. Has anyone ever attacked your choices and caught you off guard with the need to justify yourself? The next time that happens, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, what do I really gain by defending myself? Every defense can become an emotional burden, and when you choose not to justify yourself, you flip the script. You are no longer the topic of debate. You become an invisible player, controlling the board without anyone noticing. Reflection. That's what silence generates, a space for others to reveal themselves. When they speak, you listen. What really matters is not what you say, but how you position yourself in the game. The issue isn't just about what you say, but what you don't say. Every time an attack puts pressure on you, resist, stand firm. True power does not lie in words, but in the ability to let others drown in their own insecurities. Recognize this. The absence of defense is not a weakness, it's the ultimate strategy. In moments of vulnerability, true strength lies in being silent and observant. Do not explain. Never justify yourself. Let them reveal their fears. Compassion is not what's at stake. What's at stake is who controls the story. In the end, the narrative belongs to you, if you choose not to write what others expect. Do you believe true strength lies in always being ready to explain yourself? That's a fatal mistake. The compulsive need to justify your actions, to expose your truth, builds an emotional labyrinth that you've entered yourself. Each word you use as a defense is a trap designed to keep you in a cycle of doubt. This is the vulnerability that inhibits your true power. What you don't realize is that true freedom, the kind that allows you to move forward without shackles, lies in the ability to recognize and silence those internal triggers. Think back to the last time you felt compelled to justify a decision. How did it feel? Was it an act of bravery or a demonstration of fragility? Did you notice the look in others' eyes? The implicit judgment that arises when you try to explain? That impulse is an invitation to manipulation. When you justify yourself, you surrender control. The reactions of others become your new script. They analyze your words, interpret your intentions, and while you speak, they seize every emotional arrow you shoot, turning your defense into an attack. Silencing the need for validation is a revolutionary act. The challenge is to recognize the triggers that lead you into the trap. Have you ever felt like a performer in front of an audience waiting for your next act? The pressure can be overwhelming, but what if you decided not to step onto the stage? See, silence is more than an absence of sound. It's a weapon. It's a blank canvas upon which others project their insecurities. It's when you choose not to defend yourself that you become an enigma, unattainable. Machiavelli understood this instinctively. Navigating through intrigues, he never felt the need to justify his movements. Every action was a calculated step, not a defense. The certainties others hold about you are their greatest weaknesses, not craving acceptance, not thirsty for approval. The consequences of your words don't need to be exposed. Learn to speak less. When you do speak, let it be for the weight of the impact, not the urgency of defense. Every silence signifies strength. It raises questions. It creates a space where others feel compelled to expose their insecurities. In this psychological power game, what others reveal in their attempts to understand is far more significant than anything you might have said. The ability to remain a mystery is your greatest asset. An intriguing person is more influential than someone who is transparent, Keep this in mind. Now, observe. What is the cost of your explanation? How much are you willing to sacrifice to be understood? Behind every attempt to justify yourself lies a deep desire for control. Yet true freedom, the kind that really matters, comes when you stop explaining and allow your silent presence to speak louder than any excuse. Turn your silence into your stronghold. Here lies your true power. Perfection is a mirage. Have you noticed? In the relentless pursuit of acceptance, many lose themselves in a labyrinth of self-deception. What happens when you strive to be perfect? You sacrifice your authenticity. Every flaw you try to hide becomes a weight. Each unaccepted imperfection is a stone you carry, while others move freely and unencumbered. Reflect on your actions. Have you ever encountered someone who radiates confidence, even with their flaws exposed? They aren't afraid of making mistakes, because they understand that vulnerability can be their greatest asset. Removing the mask of perfection and embracing what is real generates a strength that others cannot shake. Meanwhile, you try to fit into a mold created by others. That's your trap. Now, imagine yourself in a room full of people. How many of them fail to show who they really are? The effort to prove themselves, to be recognized, to avoid mistakes. It's exhausting. Interactions become a theatrical performance, and deep down, everyone feels dissatisfied. You don't need this theater. Reject the need to always be accepted. True emotional freedom comes with self-acceptance, no matter how raw it may be. Why are you so afraid to show your flaws? Perhaps you were taught to believe that perfection attracts respect. But we can clearly see that those who expose themselves, who own their imperfections, often earn more respect than you ever imagined. True power lies in your ability to remain present, even when you don't feel perfect. It's in the moment you accept yourself that the pressure begins to lift. Notice your reactions. Those who feel insecure around you contribute to this cycle. When you try to appear perfect, you create a space where others feel comfortable criticizing and validating their own insecurities. Accepting your truth, on the other hand, makes you a force that doesn't need justification because it simply exists. What if you started seeing your mistakes as opportunities? Think about the times you allowed yourself to fail and learned something valuable. Each mistake is a lesson, and in truth, you grow through them. The pursuit of perfection drains vitality. Accepting your weaknesses turns them into fuel. Real freedom comes when you stop hiding who you truly are, instead of wearing the uncomfortable clothes that others expect you to fit into. If you want to dominate your environment, start showing yourself. Let people see your truth, not your mask. Maintain your presence without fear of what might arise. When you stop seeking external validation, you begin to embody the archetype of whom you wish to be, attracting respect and admiration from a genuine place. Perfection is a myth. Being yourself is an unparalleled power. Did you know that silence can be more powerful than 1,000 words? In the social labyrinth where everyone justifies themselves, you might be the only one who remains unshaken. What do you do when you're attacked? Do you respond quickly, explaining your motivations? Or do you simply absorb the reaction, and maintain an unwavering stance? True control does not come from passionate defense. It comes from the ability to remain silent, while others get lost in their own certainties and insecurities. Every justification you offer is a piece you hand to your adversary, a weakness exposed to the sharp gaze of those watching. Let them speak. They will reveal their motivations, their weaknesses, their flaws. And when you refuse to justify yourself, you become the mystery everyone wants to unravel. That is power in its purest form. Imagine you're in a debate, your opponent eagerly searching for answers, but you choose to stay silent. What happens? Silence creates a psychological space, and others begin projecting their anxieties onto you. The more you pull back, the more curiosity you generate. And curiosity is a form of control. It's a subtle seduction that holds them to you, while you observe every movement, every thought. Recall the wisdom of historical figures like Machiavelli. He never let others know him completely. Do you remember the last time you felt compelled to explain your actions in a moment of vulnerability? The weight of those words was unbearable, wasn't it? Now, visualize that moment turned inside out. Instead of defending yourself, you simply turn your back and walk away, as if nothing happened. The impact will be profound. What happens when you refuse to be an easy target? The game changes. The hunter becomes the prey. Now you might be thinking, does this really work? The answer is yes. While everyone clings to their narratives, you create something that few can, a space where you are untouchable. Staying silent is not weakness. It's being strategic. The power resides in the uncertainty you provoke in others. They start to wonder, what does he know? What is he thinking? And while they're busy trying to figure it out, you're already one step ahead. You become a master of the unsaid, a force that doesn't need approval, a presence that doesn't need words. Control lies in the art of remaining an enigma. If in the beginning you sought validation, now you have become the center of someone else's universe, even in your absence. If the game is about control, silence is your checkmate.